Hello and welcome back after a long while to yet another trophy video on the channel. It is Lakecomb here, and today we're going to be talking about the most efficient way for you guys to max out your Geode Mastery in Trove. I know, I've done a video just like this in the past, but I feel that Geode has changed a lot since that video, so we're back to making a brand new updated guide. Specifically for today's video, I have made and leveled a brand new account to Cyan name, admittedly with quite a substantial amount of help from my main account. As you can see right here, we're currently sitting at around 230 total mastery with this brand new account solely focusing on Geode content. This means that you can probably expect to gain around a total of 24,000 total mastery points just by completing Geode alone. That just goes to show how important it is to raise your Geode Mastery if you'd like to further progress in this game. With that out of the way, let's begin from the very beginning, shall we? Of course, to begin Geode, you're gonna have to first complete the Geode Expertise questline, which is accessible right after completing the basic questline in Trove. This questline is going to run you through the basics of Geode and is going to provide you with all the basic Geode modules as well as some upgrades to your existing ones. As you can see on your screen, this is what you'd expect after completing the Geode Expertise questline with around 25 Geode Mastery and a gas module that's at level 4, allowing you to gain access to tier 3 Geode caves. Now, the first and the most important thing that I did after completing the questline was to first obtain my Vacamatic, which is going to play a vital role in your Geode progression. We're now going to call this the Delve phase of the Geode Caves, ironically, as Delves will help us progress even further at this point in time. What you should be focusing on right now is to farm inner Geodes to complete all of the Delve allies that can be found in the Delve workbench, as well as the Delevant mounts that can be found in the Rakuten Trader next to the public Delve portal in the hub. This tip is made based on the assumption that you guys have got a decent enough class to complete Delves at this point. The main goal of this phase is to gain as much Geode Mastery as possible to obtain the Mastery milestone rewards that will grant you Mastery reliquaries. Some quick ways to obtain Geode Mastery at this point would also include the purchasing of the Forged Fragment Formula Tome, Crystalline Dream Aura, the Crystalline Pinata mounts, and the redeeming of the free Sanctuary Shuttle code, which can be found in the links in the descriptions below. These items mentioned cost a couple of thousand flux at most, so it shouldn't really be much of a problem to obtain them. I would recommend you guys to use Lodestars on your Mastery reliquaries whenever possible, as you'll be getting 5 metamatter in comparison to 3 metamatter without a Lodestar. You'll need as much metamatter as possible when it comes to leveling up your Vacamatic, which should be your first priority when working on your Geode modules. This brings the question, why should I prioritize upgrading my Vacamatic module? Well, what's so special about it? The Vacamatic specializes in vacuuming up crystals and even plants once you've leveled it up to level 9. Crystals, as you probably would already know by now, is required in almost everything that you can obtain from Geode. It is going to be your limiting factor in your Geode progression. With that being said, with a higher level Vacamatic, you will be able to obtain more crystals efficiently, and having your Vacamatic at level 10 will allow a double crystal yield from the base amount of crystals that are vacuumed, meaning you'd be getting 2 crystals for 1 in comparison to any lower level Vacamatic. This really outlines the importance of the Vacamatic, but where even is the best place for collecting crystals? To give you the short answer, Shadow Shard farms in Delves. If you don't already know what Shadow Shard farms are, I've got a couple of videos on Shadow Shard farms in which you can learn all about them down in the descriptions below. Technically, this is pretty much about it for the Delve phase of the Geode Caves. Simply by Shadow Shard farming on Monday, you'll be obtaining Shadow Shards, crystals, and even inner Geodes in the process, where the Shadow Shards can be sold for flux that will finance you if you're lacking in any Geode ores. Safe to say, with Shadow Shard farming and a decently leveled Vacamatic, you'll be able to complete crafting most of the Geode Tomes, as well as all of the crystal heavy mounts found in the Crystologist tier in the Crystology Workbench. I would recommend you guys to get the Metamatter Tome as early on as possible after leveling up your Vacamatic, as it will grant you 4 Metamatter weekly. Next up, we've got the module phase, where with the same method of obtaining crystals from Shadow Shards, you'll be spending a substantial amount of those crystals on reliquaries that will be opened to yield Metamatter. I highly recommend that you guys use the Luminous Reliquary, which grants a guaranteed 3 to 5 Metamatter once you have used a Lodestar. Reliquaries fill even when completing Shadow Shard farms, so you'll be killing 2 birds with 1 stone by doing them. On the topic of Metamatter and Reliquaries, make sure that you're completing your Geode Outpost quest in the Geode Sanctuary every single day to have the chance of obtaining a Rogue Reliquary. Using a Lodestar on a Rogue Reliquary will guarantee you 2 Metamatter, no more, no less. Another frequently asked question about Geode modules is, which one should I prioritize first other than Vacamatic? I'd pretty much layer this in tiers. Firstly, we're gonna have the most important ones ranked at the top, which I will call the prerequisites. These includes the Gas and Omni Tool, and probably even Rocket Boots to some extent. These modules are the basic requirements for everything in the Geode Caves, with Gas helping with survivability and progression to the higher tier caves, whereas Omni Tool helps with unlocking the ability to mine certain ores at higher levels and even increasing the impact radius when maxed. Leveling up your boots will increase your speed throughout the Geode Caves, which is something that you'd need to increase efficiency overall. Next up, we've got the performance enhancing modules coming in the second rank, with items such as Encharge, Thumper, and Path Painter in that order. These modules are going to make your life easier when you level them. Encharge is somewhat in the middle of rank 1 and 2, so prioritize working on it first before the others, as the other 2 are going to be add-ons that other players can provide you with if you're farming in a group. The rest, such as Climbing Claw and Barrier Generator, are going to be last to be upgraded, as these aren't that important for speed and efficiency in the Geode Caves. The Climbing Claw can be easily substituted for anti-gravity towers, whereas the Barrier Generator can be overcome by just having enough skill to navigate around lava and turret flames. Now, with the module phase out of the way, I'll assume that you'll have most of your modules maxed by this point. You can begin focusing on Geode Cave farming or Delve Ore farming on Tuesdays in order to obtain materials for the costumes found in the Geomancer tier of the Crystology Workbench. I'll call this next phase of the progression the Topside phase. This Topside phase can be done simultaneously while you're working on the module phase, as this part of the progression will be heavily reliant on 5-star dungeon farming for crystalline cores. You will need a total of 1,635 crystalline cores to fully obtain all mounts, allies, tomes, and costumes from the Crystology Workbench. Therefore, I suggest that you guys make sure to clear at least 3 5-star dungeons daily in order to obtain your gold and silver completion rewards, which totals up to at least 14 daily crystalline cores. The rest of the cores can be obtained via group 5-star farms, in which joining the 5-farm chat will probably help, as people do occasionally host 5-star dungeon farms here and there. The first crystalline core item that you should be working on is none other than the Crystalline Core Tome, as this tome will grant you 50 crystalline cores weekly for the cost of 400 crystalline cores. You'll be needing it by the end of your Geode grind anyways, so why not start on it early and get an additional 50 crystalline cores weekly? That's definitely a good deal, isn't it? With that being said, we're finally moving on into the final phase of this progression. I'd like to call this the endgame phase of the Geode Caves. This phase will assume that you have obtained all of the items in the Crystology Workbench, except items such as the Sunseeker's Glider, Geode-style stashes, and building nodes. You should also have all common and uncommon companions by this point, and if you're lucky, perhaps a rare or two. This phase is where you should be farming for your rare companions. Admittedly, this phase really starts to rely on RNG. You could probably work on the 50 matter required for the Sunseeker's glider alongside your companion farming, but bring along a Path Painter for better mobility in Tier 4 and Tier 5 Geode Caves, as your focus will mainly be on the companions. I'd suggest that you start in Tier 3 if you're looking for bronze companion eggs, and help critters along the way as they have an uncommon chance of granting you a companion egg as well. You could use Accelerite on the eggs with the excess crystal and plant you're obtaining from the runs to speed up the process, and the rest will be up to your luck. The style stashes and building notes can be obtained gradually as you get more materials to craft them, but if you're not up for farming a couple thousand cores, you can always just definitely buy them off the market. I've almost forgotten to mention another part of the progression. Well, this really isn't much progression, it's more of spending flux to obtain certain items. Things such as Leviathan mounts or hover cycle recipes are pretty impractical to farm for, and it's almost always more efficient to just buy them off the market for a few million flux without relying on RNG. Don't forget to buy the SS Solidarity boat, as it will grant you a total of 50 mastery points alongside 10 points from the SS Solidarity sale. I'm sure if you've reached this point, you should be capable of farming a couple million flux, be it via Geode Caves or Delve Ore farming or Shadow Shard farming. There are an array of different ways for you guys to obtain flux. If you're still struggling on obtaining flux, I've got some flux farming methods that I will link down in the description below so that you guys can learn how to farm more flux with the right methods in mind. I guess that's gonna be all for this video. I hope you guys learned a thing or two about progressing in Geode, and I wish you all the best in your journey to the top. Thanks for watching, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if this helped, and I will see you guys in the next couple of videos. As usual, peace out.